All right, I think we'll get started if everyone's ready. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. Welcome to the Raw Endurance Virtual Training Camp Speaker Series. This is the fourth week of our series. We had 2 sessions every Monday and Wednesday since June 1st. And tonight would be the final session, and we are honored to have a very special guest speaker. World champion pro triathlete Miranda Carfrae is here. So we're very excited to have her on board tonight to discuss her training and see how she's been adapting her training over the past few months, as we all have. We're joined by Danielle Gargody, who's been here each week. She's our coach from Long Island, New York, and she's going to be enjoying the conversation. And we have Duehring is here from Felt Bicycles, and he's been here a few times as well. Just a little bit of background about the speaker series. Each week we had guest speakers on, and we had some athletes on, and we wanted to do this virtual session just to get into everyone's homes, bring the community together, discuss various topics about triathlon and endurance, just to get the conversation going. We heard from USAT, we heard from Ironman, we heard from Infinite Nutrition, we heard from Felt Bicycles, we heard from Normatec, we heard from Sunto. We had great support. We heard from Hey Mama Kitchen about nutrition. We heard from Erica Mitchener about nutrition. And we heard from Merrick Bicycles regarding bike maintenance. So we want to say thank you for everyone to participating. Everyone had great information and great input into the conversation, and we hope everyone enjoyed hearing from them all. So tonight we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to discuss, even more so, we're going to discuss how training has evolved over the past couple of weeks. The very first session that we had, we discussed, adapting your training due to the current health situation across the country and across the globe. And we just wanted to hear, how athletes are adjusting, how coaches are adjusting the training. And so tonight, 4 weeks later, things are a little bit different. So we're going to hear from Danielle to see, what she's seeing from her athletes, what she hears from the group training sessions. And then from there, we're going to talk to Miranda Carfrae and hear exactly how she's been adapting her training over this whole few months, and especially over the last 4 weeks while we're having this session. So we'll jump right in. Danielle, tell us, how you've been, dealing with your athletes. What are you telling your athletes? And kind of what's the word on the street regarding, the current training and how it's progressed over the past 4 weeks or changed?
It's interesting to speak about this now, because a few weeks ago, or even 8 or 10 weeks ago when we started planning this, David, we talked about all the things and how upset people were about no racing, and how, bummed with Ironman postponing and races throughout the season, local stuff not happening this year, and the virtual thing picked up and it took off, and people were virtual racing everywhere and anywhere around the world. So that was a nice way to get people motivated again. And then, it started to kind of flatline with that a little bit too. People did every distance virtual race, from running races to triathlons or duathlons. And then, they said, okay, well, that's enough of that. So what's next? And I think the weather sort of turned in most parts of the country where people are able to get outside a little bit. And as each state started to open up into their phase 1s and progressing towards phase 2 in reopening from COVID-19 shutdown, they have started to be able to swim together in open water because you're allowed on the beach as long as you're distance. Some places, pools reopened in the last couple of weeks, and then people are outside riding instead of, keeping themselves trapped inside on the trainers and things like that. So, and the ability to have small groups, and on this little pocket in Long Island, this little hotbed for triathlon where we are, we're lucky to have a number of different groups that do meet up regularly and continue to train together, and started out very distant, people wearing masks and all that stuff. And now things are a little looser. So the season looks like it's going to shape up a little bit, possibly. We're watching this weekend for Ironman 70.3 Lubbock and see how that goes. So a lot of people who deferred their A races to later in the season are hopeful that they'll actually take place. And if they don't, we've got another winter yet to train. I mean, there's still disappointment out there. Don't get me wrong. There's folks that are wishing things were canceled sooner because they put a lot of miles on their body already, and it's disappointing and it's painful on your machine. So, but it's good because the last couple of weeks people have been getting out together. I've seen a lot of positivity in social media where things have changed and people are on the upswing. And it looks like we're going to do something at some point before the year's out, before the season's out. So everything's looking much better and much brighter than it was just a few weeks ago.
Can't hear you, David.
Sorry about that. Certainly people are getting excited about the lower, health crisis with COVID, the lower rates, nationwide, worldwide. Society as a whole is starting to be vibrant again. And so our community will be vibrant again as well. So hopefully, we have a couple of Ironman races, in the very near future. We're going to see if those go off. Some have been postponed. Lake Placid might be happening on August 30th, which is nice. We like Lake Placid here in New York. So there is excitement out there. People are looking forward to racing, and maybe that could happen. So I think with that, we're going to hand it over to Jake, and Jake will do a nice intro for Mirinda. And we're going to hear about how Mirinda has been dealing with this whole situation, how her training has evolved over the past couple of months. Jake?
Hi, everyone. Like David said, my name is Jake Duehring, and I run sports marketing for Felt Bicycles. I just wanted to give Rennie a little introduction, even though she doesn't really need one. Is a 3-time Kona Ironman world champion. She is the fastest runner ever, coming in at 5'3". She's just a little motor, and she hosts Tim and Rennie show. If no one has seen that show on this channel, please follow it. It's amazingly entertaining, and it's something that I can't say enough about. So without further ado, I'll let Rennie take it over and talk about how she's been dealing with training during these interesting times.
Yeah, thanks, Jake, and thanks for the YouTube plug. It's always good to try and get more viewers on that. I think the initial disappointment is what I want to start with. Going into the season, I finished out 2019 on a bit of a low. I broke my arm right before Santa Cruz 70.3, like 2 days before the race, which was 5 weeks out from Kona, which was a massive disappointment. I was on such a high in racing as well as I'd ever raced before, and just really excited for Kona. And then sort of that happened. I hadn't broken a bone since I was probably, 5 years old. So it was so out of the blue and so crazy to have that happen. I think nursing for as long as I did, my daughter probably aided in that break, because it was kind of a weird break. I wasn't riding my bike, I was actually running, and I fell and just caught my arm in the wrong way, I guess. So that was really the last 5 weeks pretty stressful, leading into Kona and not knowing if I was actually going to be able to swim. I was swimming with one arm sort of 3 weeks out from Kona. Obviously biking very well. That didn't change. I was able to ride on the trainer, given, even though I had to sort of ride with one arm. But yeah, I was able to continue my biking and running training without, much, if any, pain. It was just the swimming that was compromised, but still a 4K swim, getting through that is undaunting when you have one arm that doesn't really want to pull through the water very well. Fast forward, got to Kona. The rest is sort of history. I got through the swim okay, which was my biggest concern, got onto the bike, and I think from the 5 weeks of riding on the trainer, sort of not putting my pressure through both arms, messed with my back. And, once we got sort of 50K into the bike, time trialing, my back was not happy, and kind of had to call it a day. So yeah, going into 2019, super motivated. I actually started working with a new coach, Julie Dibbins. My coach, Siri Lindley, we had parted ways sort of November. We had a meeting, and she's doing so much speaking with Tony Robbins now, and her schedule is a little crazy, and she just couldn't put the energy necessary into me, another shot at Kona. And so, I moved to Julie Dibbins, which is a old foe of mine. I raced against Julie for many years, good friend, but has turned out to be a fantastic coach. Obviously, he's coached my husband the last 2 years, coached him to second place in Kona last year, lives here in Boulder. So really excited to be in a new program. And then he sort of we hit it pretty early, trained through Christmas, New Year's, and I wanted to race Ironman St. George in May. That was my big early season goal, try and qualify for Kona. And yeah, 6 weeks out, maybe 7 weeks out, we sort of started to see races being cancelled. And my first race that was cancelled was actually Texas 70.3. And, the initial disappointment, I was like, okay, well, maybe this, you don't know, like you're kind of like hopeful that more races will go on. And, we pushed through that, first couple of weeks of training, just as if we were just going to prepare for St. George. And then of course, St. George was cancelled along with, basically the rest of the season progressively over the next, weeks and months. And so, yeah, I feel like the initial disappointment was kind of that, the hardest to get over. And as Danielle mentioned, you are training so hard and you're putting all these miles on your body for this race that's coming up, and then it sort of just gets taken away from you. And, yes, this happens to athletes. Athletes get sick before races, athletes get injured before races. But this was completely out of anyone's control and unprecedented. Nothing you could ever foresee that would ever happen. So the not knowing has been the hardest part. And how we dealt with that was initially, as I mentioned, we kind of kept training as normal. My coach reached out to all the athletes and said, okay, what do you guys want to do? Would you like to continue training as normal, or do you want to back it off or go back into off-season mode? Initially, I wanted to push forward, and then St. George got cancelled, and so we've sort of all reverted into off-season mode. And that was actually after you get over the initial disappointment and the emotions of kind of a loss, which is kind of silly because, racing will be there next year. I've been racing for a long time and had so many great experiences in this sport, but it's still disappointing, and you can allow yourself that disappointment in the moment. But we then shifted to, well, hey, we're in Boulder. We actually don't get to spend a whole lot of time here at home. We're kind of traveling, I feel like, at least 6 months of the year, and all through the summer we're in and out of Boulder racing and traveling. And this has just sort of turned into a really nice opportunity to, first of all, spend some time at home, do some home projects, spend more time with our daughter, but also in training, take the foot off the gas and enjoy some cycling outdoors on roads we'd never ridden on before. I have a cross bike, a felt cross bike that I barely ever ride. Usually it's reserved for when we get home from Kona. So like sort of November before it snows, sort of have a short window of time there to ride it. But now I'm able to ride it in the summer on cool roads that I've been living here for 15 years. Well, 10 years. I've been coming here for 15 years. And to be able to get out and enjoy the great outdoors, ride my mountain bike, again, another bike I barely ever pick up. I'm usually 100% TT bike once the season starts. And also my road bike, even riding some of the canyons on my road bike, it's a lot more enjoyable when you don't have your head down looking at the ground in front of you. So it's really been, as much as it's been disappointing to have lost the opportunity to race, to step back and take the opportunity to go and enjoy this beautiful place that we live in, that has been sort of a silver lining for us. Also, obviously, our daughter's 3 in a couple of months, so she is a lot of fun. She's a big personality, so spending more time with her, less time out, hours on the bike and so forth. So there's a lot to look forward to it and to enjoy. And yes, it's been difficult having the world shut down and not being able to go out to restaurants and not being able to do the things we would normally do in the off season, enjoy time with friends. But it's been a really nice time to just spend with family and have a little downtime. And I think I've noticed in our group, certainly there's athletes that have tackled this in different ways. My husband and I obviously both been in the sport for a long time, raced for a long time, a lot of miles on the body. We've taken this time to sort of step back and sort of go into base miles and nothing too specific. Whereas there are other athletes in our group who may need, younger guys who want to work on speed work, or they want to work on something specific. And so the coach would give them, okay, you're going to do a 40K time trial on the bike, try for your best time, or a 5K run time trial, or a 10K run time trial. And so having those little goals for some athletes was really necessary to break up the disappointment of not having something to strive for. I think as athletes, it's really important to have some goal somewhere. For us, it was a little bit like, oh, we need to look after ourselves. And once we know there's a race, keep a certain level of fitness, but, nothing too crazy, because I feel like when you've been in the sport for as long as we have, there's a sort of a certain amount of time that you need to prepare for a race. And any more than that, you kind of start to overtrain, and sickness or injury can occur. But that's been interesting. Also, with our group, I guess in the last sort of probably 6 or 8 weeks, we were kind of basically going along our training, not doing anything super specific, base miles, a lot of gravel bike rides, mountain bike rides, substituting out the time trialing. But it sort of just felt like we were kind of going along and didn't really have a goal or anything to look forward to. And one thing that our coach suggested was we'd have 3 weeks of focused training where we're on a program and we're doing the program, Monday to Sunday, and then 1 week of do whatever you want. And so that has been really great switch as well. Still not knowing when the next race is. This week actually is our do whatever you want week. And so we kind of get up in the morning and do whatever we feel like. Yes, we're still active, and yes, we're still training, but it's not specific. And so it's kind of a nice mental break to have for now when we're not super focused. Having said that, though, she put out a challenge for next week. The squad's going to do a 1,000 kilometer bike week, and which I've never come close to ever in my 20 years of doing triathlon. So it's about 600 miles. I should translate. 600 miles. So that should be a pretty solid week, and that's something to look forward to. I think that's been really good to have little goals like that. As I mentioned, different athletes like different things. In terms of strength training and specific training, we've kept our strength training pretty consistent. We have our strength coach here in Boulder. She actually just lives down the road from us. So even through the lockdown, she would come over to our house and socially distance, give us a session socially distanced. So we have an area on our in our yard and our patio where she can instruct us at a safe distance. And so, through the whole COVID, phase, proper lockdown, stay at home to, safer at home, we were able to keep up the strength training with it, which I think is super important, especially as you age. Also, I have a very nice setup at my house. I'm sponsored by Master Spa, so I have, when the pools were locked down or closed, I was able to still, keep up my swimming. It's not a replacement for the pool, but definitely really nice to be able to get in and get some good swim sessions done. Obviously, we have a really good setup, treadmill, bikes, and also just living here in Boulder, we're kind of coming into the warmer time of the year when we could ride outside and run outside anyway. So in terms of training and the setup we have, it was really ideal for lockdown. You couldn't have a better setup. So yeah, we're very fortunate and lucky to have those things working for us. What else did I want to talk about? Yeah, the other thing we wanted to do, so I guess our biggest concern as professional athletes is not being able to race for our sponsors, not being able to showcase our sponsors. And Danielle mentioned earlier, the virtual racing series popped up, and we were asked to do the Ironman virtual race. I did the first week, and my husband pulled the plug on my, which was pretty funny. That got pretty much worldwide news. I think I was on the telephone to Australia the next day doing an interview. The last time those guys had contacted me, it was in 2014 when I won Kona, and they called me right after that event. So the world was definitely starved for sports news. And yeah, my lovely husband and his big feet tripped over and knocked me out of that race. But still, it was a really nice opportunity to, showcase my sponsors. I did another event with Miranda Carfrae, Mothers of Triathlon event, where we basically just did a social session, I guess you want to say. We swam 2 miles. We both have master spas in the master spa. I think we biked 58 miles, and then we ran 10 miles on our treadmills, both on Zwift. So just trying to come up with ways to continue to, engage our audience and also, give our sponsors some love. I have a couple of new sponsors, Santini and Garmin, which I signed this year, and I'm not going to be able to race for them. So, and also, as Jake mentioned, we relaunched our YouTube series. We fortunately have a friend here in town who is very good at editing video. So, yeah, he started editing video for us, and we got that back up and running. And honestly, Izzy's the star of that show. It's a little bit of Timothy and I, and obviously we do go through some training and tips and what we've been up to basically. But the show is really all about Izzy, and I think the fans prefer it that way. So we'll probably give more Izzy in the future. That's kind of it. We've kind of just been cruising along, trying to find the positives in the situation, and just kind of waiting to see what will transpire in the next, coming months. Hopefully there'll be some fall races, and yeah, hopefully next year we'll be back to normal, but we'll just have to wait and see, like the rest of the world.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for all of those good points. It seems like, to everyone listening at home, I mean, we're all in the same boat here, maybe just at different levels. So I think everyone has just the uncertainty of what's going on in the world, making sure that everybody's healthy. And then we're seeing, a constant theme is just to less structure, a little bit more relaxed training, keeping the aerobic, fitness level there, and being ready within 4 weeks, to race. You don't want to totally chill out and lose, some of the fitness because you work so hard to get it. But I think overall, people are really embracing the home time. You guys have more time together and with your daughter. Less traveling is a little bit, less anxiety, on the family. Just being home, being around each other more, and being able to do these virtual sessions, I think are pretty awesome. Being able to do all the group rides on Zwift, Ruvi rides, and the races with the Ironman, the virtual series is really important to keep people, active and involved. So with all of that, some of the things, do you have any questions here you want to hop in with?
Yeah, I mean, you covered mostly everything. Well, a couple of the specific questions regarding what to do next when you hear that there's not going to be any races, how the family responded to that, and what your initial feelings were when everything kind of shut down. Because I know how we all felt, but when this is your job, what your feelings initially were, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. David, I have 2 other questions just directed for you, Rennie. They're not so COVID focused, but more on you. And that is, one of them is, after you had your daughter, and I asked this for myself and a lot of the moms and stuff that I coach and I train with. I have 2 young kids too, 8 and 6, my 2 little ones. Did you find out when you got back into training after you had your daughter, did you have any of that like mom guilt, like getting into putting in those hours and like on your body being exhausted after putting it through that trauma, and you know, mentally and physically coming back from a baby? And my other question for that, tying into that, is also, do you feel like you're in better shape post-baby than you were before baby? Because I see a lot of folks, you know, will have their children and they come back with this, like, you know,
superpowers.
Like, and then they come back with like mom strength, superpowers.
Totally.
So I wanted you to kind of maybe share some of that with us, because a lot of our viewers and followers are in the same age bracket.
Yeah, no, to your first question, getting back, I took my time after Izzy was born. The timing of her birth was actually perfect for, you know, she was born in August of 17. I wanted to race Kona of 18. So I had like 14 months basically to prepare. And I was pretty calculated in my return. You know, initially you really want to rest, and I did. My husband was racing Kona 8 weeks later, and so I was 100% on the baby duty, which was pretty much fine because all the baby wants is boob and sleep and change. So yeah, I mean, I just basically did the baby for 8 weeks until he got through Kona, and didn't do any training. I did some hiking, some walking once I, you know, felt that that felt good to do, which did not feel good to do for at least 2 weeks. Yeah, having babies is not pleasant business. It is like serious business. So yeah, so it took my body like over 2 weeks. I'd say more like 3 weeks to feel like okay to walk around, like I was more intact, I guess. And then, you know, once I got to Kona, we did have a little help with Izzy, and so I then started swimming, and that was 7 to 8 weeks after she was born, so in October, and that was the start of, you know, my mountain of getting back to fitness. And it did feel like a massive struggle. I remember just like walking and jogging for 20 minutes felt hard at the beginning. And but I think one thing that a friend told me, Rachel Joyce actually, a fellow professional triathlete, was to focus on the gains that you're making weekly and not comparing yourself to what you were prior to. And it's pretty remarkable how your body can, you know, respond to the training you've been doing and how crazy the gains are week to week. I'd say I didn't really feel like I was in sort of full training until she was probably 5 months old, probably February. And, you know, we were down in Australia training then, but still, like, it was a struggle to get back up there. And then fast forward to my first race was, I think she was 7 months old. I did Galveston 70.3, and I've never biked as well as I biked that day in my life. And I ended up taking second place. And I honestly was expecting to, you know, I was hoping for top 5 would be amazing. I expected to be, you know, maybe 6th, 7th, or 8th. But yeah, there is something crazy about mum strength. I think, first of all, when you do go and train, you don't mess around. A lot of the time you are on the trainer, which obviously is very beneficial. It's less entertaining and enjoyable than being out on the road, but a lot of that training is super specific. It's always hard. There's no coasting. And yeah, that was kind of what my training was like. I'd run out the door, get my session done, come back, be with Izzy, feed her, put her down for a nap, go out, do my next session. There wasn't any messing around. And but just remembering the rest of your question, having mum guilt. Yes, I definitely had mum guilt. Like, we hired a nanny. I knew that if I wanted to get back to full-time racing, I would need full-time help. We don't have family that live anywhere near us in Boulder. And so we hired an au pair to help take care of Izzy, so I could properly do my training. But yeah, having handing off your baby to another person to do your job, it felt wrong and it felt bad. But I knew that this is my job and this is what I need to do. And if I can perform at a high level, then I can continue to make pretty good money in the sport, and I can put that money away for her in the future. And as a little baby, they don't I was in and out all day long. I wasn't I feel for the women who have to go to work early in the morning and don't get to come home until the evening, and it's a much smaller amount of time they get to spend with their little ones. I don't know if I could do that, but yeah, I was sort of in and out all the time. I'd ride the trainer a lot, so I'd hear her, and if she needed me, I'd hop off and feed her. Or certainly initially, I had to feed her because the boobs needed to be emptied. But once she got a little older, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, I could get out and do a 3-hour ride, 4-hour ride on the road, and she'd be okay. And I knew she was in good hands, and yeah, I think but I think any mum's going to struggle with that initial mum guilt of, is this selfish? Am I doing this for myself? But even if you are, working and exercising, you're doing it for your family. You're going to be a happier person. You're going to be a healthier mother for your children as you get older. You're going to be healthy and able to keep running around with them and being with them for hopefully longer in their lives. So I think you have to sort of remember all of those things when you do go out and exercise, because having time 24 hours with a baby or a child, you're not going to have 24 hours of perfect time. And I think a lot of that time is stressful and hard and mentally draining. And I think if you sometimes take some time for yourself, go and get your workout in, go out for your run, you're a better mum, you're in a better mood, you're happier, and you can give more. And honestly, I think having a baby does give you, as I mentioned, mum strength, but even like you're kind of superhuman. Like you go out and do your exercise, you come home, you still have energy, you can spend time with your baby girl or your kids, still make dinner. I don't know. I mean, mums are superhuman, and I only have one little girl, and my mum had 6 of us. I can't even imagine that, but you just find a way to deal. And also, I think, certainly for me, having Izzy I feel like she gave me more energy. Like she just lights up the room. She makes everything brighter in our worlds and puts things into perspective. I certainly noticed that after having Izzy, like I was less obsessive about the small details. I'd worry less or stress less about small details in racing. I'd just, do my work, not think about it afterwards, and, switch off and play with her, which I think has been a real positive for my racing. And, in the 2018, when I came back and raced, I raced okay. I did get some great results and finished 5th in Kona, but certainly didn't feel, my training wasn't up to the level it needed to be by Kona. But the following year in 2019, I raced some of the best 70.3s I've ever raced in my life and felt super strong. And yeah, I think, one, having a year off, so being pregnant and not racing, was really beneficial. But 2, having, that mum strength was pretty amazing. And not only the hormones that you get, but just like having a little girl waiting for you at the finish line. Like, who's not going to get to the finish line a little quicker? They don't have their little person waiting for them and cheering them on. And, you want to set a good example for her. It's not about me anymore. I race for my family and I race for Izzy. So I think when you're racing for something bigger than yourself, you're able to do something more than maybe if you were just racing for yourself. So yeah, that's kind of been my experience being a new mom and having Izzy around. It was tough, definitely tough, getting back and there's definitely tough moments, and you definitely have the emotions when you're going out to train and you leave it behind. But overall, it's been such a positive experience in our lives. I can't say, how I can't give any more, I don't know, say any more how much she's brightened our lives. And then, not that it wasn't bright before. We had, amazing. You got to race around the world and win lots of big races and, have the highest highs. But then when you have a little person in your team as well, it just makes it amplifies everything, I guess.
And she gets all nice little stamps on her passport book.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be nice.
She's well traveled. She's been to Australia like 4 times already. Europe, Mexico, Hawaii, like 3 times already. Yeah, she's been around the world, that little one.
Yeah, it's nice to have that balance. I mean, it definitely does get tough. I mean, I don't have any children, but I mean, we see people out here, full-time jobs, both parents work, trying to find that balance to devote to the family and to training. I think you summed it up very nicely. It also talks about mom strength. I think you did come back pretty good in 2018 for, first or second in the first couple of races that you joined, which was great. So we do have one question online. I think that kind of touches on like the home life. And this is from Emma. Emma asks, how do you and Tim manage meal prep for the week with both of you so busy training?
Yeah, I mean, I wish we were better at meal prep. Fortunately, we live in a place where there are really good takeaway meal options that are not crazy expensive. So we probably do, on a good week, we cook 3 meals and eat 3 meals takeaway or eat out maybe once. So, I basically plan out the shopping list and shop on, whatever day of the week I can get a chance to. And yeah, I basically that's my job. Tim's a great, he does the meat, whatever. He loves to cook good steaks and stuff like that. But in terms of like coming up with a plan, getting the groceries and the meal prep, that kind of falls on me. So yeah, you just juggle. I mean, finish training in the afternoon, make sure Tim's finished because he tends to take his time to get on the bike. He tends to like wait till the last minute to get his run done, but hand Izzy off and then get dinner prepared. And yeah, I mean, it's not anything special. We don't have a special plan or any like special meal prep. We don't prep everything on Sunday for the week, which would be pretty cool, but no, we're pretty much day to day and maybe week to week make a plan. That's about it.
So with the discussion about nutrition, do you have any tips or any kind of favorite pre-workout training meals, or maybe like pre-race, like before your swim, before a big event, and then maybe if you want to just touch briefly on your nutrition plan for maybe a 70.3 and Ironman, and then maybe a post meal.
Yeah, so in terms of just pre-race or pre-big event, I tend to go towards like chicken and rice. It's kind of our go-to for every race. So much so that I don't know if I'll be able to eat chicken and rice post-career. This is just that one meal. It's pretty plain, chicken breast or thighs and white rice because it's easily digestible, some good proteins. And I know it sits well and process as well. So that's basically our, anytime we have a, big race, that's what we'll have the night before. General nutrition, we generally have steak once a week, steak and, vegetables. We always try to get a green or a salad and a starch. So whether that's potatoes or rice, that's kind of our thing. We also love lamb. Coming from Oz, I think I introduced him to that. So similar lamb and veggies or lamb and salad and potatoes. Sometimes bolognese is a big favorite in our family. So that's kind of a big pasta dish, but we don't, my husband's gluten-free, so we generally use like quinoa pasta because it processes easier, sits a little better. feel like also pasta dries you out a little. You know, I certainly don't mind it, but certainly before a race, and if have a big session the next day, I won't eat that. So yeah, I mean, you know, and then we have takeout, pizza, burgers. We have like really good salad places here. Thai food is also a favorite in our family. You know, you name it. We pretty standard stuff. In terms of post-race main favorite food, I always go for a burger and margarita post-race. Also, we do enjoy our wine here in the Carfrae O'Donnell house. We even throughout the season, we'll open a bottle of wine and share it. Not every night, but a lot of nights of the week. My husband drinks the majority of the bottle, but yeah, that's something we enjoy, and I only really shut that down leading into the biggest race of the year, which is Kona. Post-race food, as I said, I always go for burgers, you know, salty chips, and probably a big margarita. And nutrition for 70.3.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Over the years, I found that I've gotten more efficient, so I don't need to take on as much. So basically, in the 70.3, I'll start the race with one bottle filled with like Guru Octane. The other bottle will have Coke, and I finish the Guru Octane, then fill water at one of the aid stations, and I drink Coke in the last 45 to hour, and I have like probably 2 goo gels, and then on the run I just have like a gel flask with 3 goo gels in it, and I sort of take small sips at each aid station as I go along, depending on how my stomach feels and how my energy is. In an Ironman, it's obviously a little bit more complicated, but it's basically an expanded version of that Guru Octane drink with extra carbohydrate added to those drinks. So they're pretty heavy carbohydrate drinks, I guess. And the first one I drink over the first 2 hours with water. The second one, same thing, 2 hours with water. And then my third energy bottle is usually Coke as well in the back half of the bike, but obviously a lot of water, salt, and probably 6 to 8 goo gels on the bike. And then on the run, I carry 2 flasks and a little bit of water in each one of those too, to keep them not so gluggy. Mm-hmm. And just sip those throughout the marathon. That's basically my race nutrition, and added salt if it's a hotter race, certainly.
Nice. Okay. No, thank you for that, to share your nutrition plan with us. Yep. So since we're talking, we're going to wrap up soon. We don't want to keep you too long. I just do have one question. On Monday night, we talked about mental preparedness. We think that the whole mental aspect of racing and endurance sports is so important. So one of the questions that we do have online is, what do you think about while you're powering through long, tough sessions? And I just want to build on that a little bit. Anxiety, race jitters, it's a very in-depth discussion that we can have. So maybe if we could just hear a couple of your feelings about the whole process of training for a triathlon, setting up those goals, especially at the longer distance. It's a very big commitment. There are most likely going to be some setbacks that people face. So maybe dealing with the ups and downs, the high emotions, the low emotions. And then when it comes to race day, maybe harnessing those emotions to calm yourself a little bit. What are you thinking about during the race? What should be important? Our sports psychologist the other night said, just deal with the now. Think about the now. Don't worry about what happened before or what can happen, that you anticipate something can happen, and therefore you are a little anxious about it. So bring it in, try and calm yourself. Do you have any advice for our athletes out there, how to deal with your emotions? And then ultimately, when you do cross the finish line, there's excitement. There could be some disappointment mixed in with all that. So maybe if you could share that, and then we'll let you get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. initially you were asking about what I think about when I'm training, and I think a lot about Kona, my biggest race, and having a big goal that you think about a lot, you dream about a lot, you put your mind in that place a lot of the time. And for me, that race has obviously been Kona over most of my triathlon career. And so, in training, I'm thinking about, I'm riding on the Queen K, I'm, Daniela's in the race, or whoever at the time is my biggest competitor, thinking about where they are, how they're feeling, and how I need to execute perfectly to execute a great race and to have my best result. But yeah, just that, I think visualization is such a powerful tool, and that's definitely something that I've just always used, and it seems to have worked pretty well throughout my career. Going into other races, I definitely, find out, who I'm racing, but more than that, visualizing what I want to be doing in the moment, how I want to be feeling, visualizing the race from start to finish, how I want to be feeling in the swim, what I'm going to do before the swim, what I'm going to eat, when I'm going to eat it, what I'm going to take on the bike, when I'm going to take those things, when am I going to take those gels. Basically just visualizing the race start to finish. I think the good things that can go your way, obviously that's your main focus, but you need to have plan B, plan C. If I lose my nutrition, what am I going to do? If I get a flat tire, what am I going to do? If I'm not having a great day, how am I going to mentally deal with that? And I think in the moment, as you mentioned, in the race itself, it is so important to just be in the moment. And my strength coach asked me one day, what do you think about when you're out there racing? And I'm like, hopefully just drink, eat, and run. Like, hopefully. And honestly, like when you're in that moment and you're having your best day, you're so focused on what you're doing in every single moment, the race goes by like a flash. And, I can look back on my best races, and when I was completely consumed with what I was doing in the moment that I was in, they're the best races that I've ever had. And I think those races come from mental preparation. Obviously, you need to do all the work. You need to be fit and strong and, have good mechanical luck. But I think if you have that mindset in a race, you're going to get the best out of yourself. And so that's certainly been my experience over the years. And yeah, I mean, finishing races, and even during races, sometimes you can lose that focus and see someone or think about something else. But learning how to bring yourself back into the moment, I think is really important. You can practice that in training, because you definitely let your mind wander sometimes in training, and that can definitely get you through a lot of long, easier sessions. But when you're in a race, I think you need to be completely engaged and figuring out how to get back into that. Simple things that I use are focusing on my breathing, focusing on when I'm running, focusing on relaxing my shoulders. When I'm on the bike, a smooth pedal stroke, relaxing my shoulders also, and being in a good aero position. Just the fundamentals. I think when you break it down to those things, if your mind has wandered, that will bring you back to the moment and enable you to get the best out of yourself. And finishing races, yeah, I mean, there's going to be disappointments sometimes. There's going to be some of your highest highs. But I think as athletes, that's what we sign up for. Like having the opportunity to see what you're made of, having the opportunity to go out there and have the race of your life, or not, or fall short. And if you fall short, then you're learning from that experience. And I think if you can look at it that way, and certainly I always, if I get beaten in a race, or if I don't have my best race, it doesn't mean I'm not a good athlete. It doesn't mean that I'm not capable. It just means that someone was better than me on that day, or I didn't do enough training, or I needed to work on something, or I have a little weakness I need to work on. So once you figure that out, any disappointment can be turned around into a positive and worked on in training. And then hopefully the next race, see progress at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all good advice there. I think some key takeaways is just to stay in the moment when you're training, stay in the moment when you're racing. Know that you have prepared for this event. It's important to you. You enjoyed preparing for it. You look forward to this day. Your fitness is there. Have confidence in yourself. Like your fitness is there. The hay is in the barn. We said it the other night. Everything's done. You've done all the prep. Try not to get your anxiety up. About like the what ifs. And like you said, also have a plan B, a plan C. Know how to change your flat tire. We spoke about it the other night. Have some kind of a backup plan. And then also, some things you can't change, like the weather and other, general things about the day. So the important thing, like you said, give it 100%. Go out there and give it your best effort. Have a great race. Enjoy it, whatever the outcome may be. And then maybe post-race reflect on it, a little bit. So that's all great advice there for everyone listening. So right now we have a question for the audience. We're going to take it away from Mirinda right now. We have a question for the audience, and it's for a felt bicycle kit giveaway. The question is, which year at which Ironman World Championship in Kona did Mirinda win and set the run course record for women? Everyone could answer that in the comments section. We'll have a few moments. What year at which Ironman World Championship in Kona did Mirinda win and set the run course record for women? And a bonus if someone can provide the time. So let's see. I think Mary's going to help us out and see who answers that. And then as soon as we get this all locked in, we're going to thank Mirinda and let her go on with her evening. So let's see if anyone out there has some answers. It's for a felt bike kit. I have 2014, and the time is 2:50:26. Is that accurate?
Yes, as far as I know.
Okay, so we have an answer there. We know who you are. Thank you for playing, and I'll reach out to you. Cool. Yeah. We'll reach out to you, Jake. You have a kit for our attendants.
Yeah, just give me the address and we'll get it out.
Cool. Great. Thank you so much. Jake, I want to say thank you to you for connecting us with Mirinda. You've been a very supportive person throughout all this. We thank Felt Bicycles. Mirinda, we thank you very much for taking time out to talk to us tonight about how your training's been over the last couple of weeks. We really appreciate it. Danielle, you have anything in closing for Mirinda? We're going to stay on. Danielle and I will stay on, and Mirinda and Jake are going to drop off. So the audience, hang on with us for another 10 more minutes. Danielle?
Thanks, guys.
Oh,
To
say
thank you.
I was going to have Danielle.
Thank
Mirinda,
you.
you're still with us? I was going to have Danielle
Yeah,
say thank you.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I'm still here.
That's okay. I just wanted to thank you for all of your insight and, meeting with us, and especially for the female athletes, because I don't know, we didn't cover too much female specific, but I think, as a female coach, my female athletes have they're very different than the male athletes. So, and from everything from, I have discussed with David from, lifestyle stuff right down to, physics and anatomy and body chemistry and things like that. So I appreciate, the real deal coming from you, what it's like to have little kids and deal with your body and all that stuff. So thank you.
No worries at all. It's my pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Great.
All right. All right, you guys. Thanks
you,
so much.
Mirinda.
Have a good night.
Have a nice night.
Thanks again. Good night.
Bye.
Okay. Danielle, you still here?
I'm here.
All right, great. That was exciting. That was a nice conversation that we had with Mirinda. She had a lot to say. I think some of the key takeaways, being flexible, like adapting your training. That was our first, topic back on June 1st. It was our first session. we're all adapting our training, the uncertainty of no races, what are we training for? The other night, we had a question when the athletes is like, what do I tell my friends when I'm training all the time? And they want to know, like, what are you training for? Are you training for the possibility that you're going to be race ready within 3 to 4 weeks for your event that could very well happen soon? And we're seeing that some events are starting to, to come around. We think Ironman would happen. Which race is that? Ironman, Monkey, and Lubbock might be happening. So Lake Placid rescheduled.
And Lubbock's this weekend. Muncie's in 2 weeks after that, I think.
Yeah. So we think, stay positive out there, everybody. Just a few things that we'll touch on from the whole speaker series in general. And maybe Danielle, you could comment on these. We had great discussions every week. And so session 1 was back on June 1st, and we talked about adapting training. So I think we hit that pretty hard tonight. Session 2, we went over recovery. We had Josh Amberger on, and he talked about his recovery. So maybe Danielle, do you want to tell us maybe like one key takeaway that you had, if you could remember from that session with Josh? He went over a bunch of things, yoga or recovery boots or nutrition, anything that comes to mind when you think about recovery from that session with Josh.
Yeah, he touched on everything from refueling your body after a workout is just as important as fueling it beforehand. So recovery drinks, recovery meals, and rest, and then also the stretching and the handling of your muscles and your body after that. And he's got all the tools. Not everybody has, the ability to have all those tools at home or borrowing them from friends or whatever. But yeah, between the gun and the boots and foam rollers and,
the cup,
all this stuff, the cupping. Yeah. I mean, I ordered the cups on Amazon. I have them here. We use them all the time. So if you can't get into your PT or whatever, just basically kind of explain to us what that stuff does, and really to bring blood flow back to your muscles quicker so that they recover, because the blood into your muscles is what aids in recovery. So, I always tell people quarantine was a good time and an opportunity to really get to know yourself and what your body needs to recover, and have the time to actually put that in, because that's the stuff we don't always focus on. Very when we're training and trying to get miles in and trying to get workouts done, and you have to go to the next thing or go to work, get home from work, and you have other obligations. We're not professionals. We don't do this for a living. So we have to find the time to add it in, and then adding an extra step is always kind of annoying. So, just he covered everything. I think his recovery was very down to earth and realistic to the average age grouper person.
Yeah. That's important too, so people can, have that connection with the pros, And it was nice of him to join us, so that's why we wanted him to, to talk about that, so people can have that connection, with the pros. So session number 3, we talked about technology and gear. We had Felt on, we had Sunto discuss their watches, Felt with the Felt Bicycles lineup, and Normatec Hyper Ice went over their boots and their massager. Some key takeaways from there is, there's so much gear and technology in this sport. Everyone has to go out and buy something that they like, or, some of the features. So I guess, try, see what all the features are in all the different products, see what works for you. It was nice to hear from these companies and to see some of the watch features for Sunto. And Normatec really has some nice boots out there for recovery. Any key takeaways with technology and gear? Anything that people really need? People could get so caught up with, like the long list of stuff that they need. Need versus want might be, or should have, you have swim gear, the paddles, the buoy, the kickboard. It can get expensive. So maybe two pieces per discipline that you think are super important to have. What do you think, Danielle?
Sure. Well, you need good goggles for your swim. Pool toys, most of the pools if they're at like a YMCA or something like that, usually have things like pull buoys and fins and kickboards and stuff. So you don't really have to buy that stuff if it's kind of communal in those places.
Right.
But good goggles, because if you're swimming distance, and we've had this discussion with swimmers all the time, like you get headaches from, you know, the small socket goggles because they're made for short distance and speed, right? So you want bigger goggles that might cover your face a little bit more, apply less pressure to your head, and you won't get a headache while you're distance swimming. So definitely the investment for a swim, I would say, would be good swim goggles, first and foremost, and a wetsuit. You know, I mean, you can get swim caps anywhere, but a good wetsuit helps take a few seconds off of each 100, believe it or not. So it also helps with flotation for open water, for racing. Mm-hmm. 2 for the swim. For the bike, yeah, you need a bike. You need more than 2 things for the bike. But really, your watch and heart rate monitor. Some coaches push power, some push heart rate, but I think you'll always have a heart rate monitor because you'll always use it on the run. So a watch that does both of those, a multi-sport watch, doesn't have to be the newest. Something that reads your heart rate and you're able to track your pace, miles per hour, and things like that. And same for the run, good pair of sneakers and your watch, really the major necessities. You think? You agree?
Yeah, definitely. You could go on for, forever buying stuff.
You could have all the gadgets.
You could get by with the bare minimum and still, have good results. So with that, we'll quickly go through these last ones. We don't want to keep everyone too long. We'll be wrapped here within 5 minutes. Session 4 was transitions with Ashley Gentle. A key takeaway there, she gave us some great tips. I'm just going to jump right in. She showed us her whole bike setup. Put your sunglasses up on top of your helmet. It's one motion rather than 2. She's ITU specialist with the Olympic distance. Seconds mean a lot to her. It could mean a lot to any of you out there. So sunglasses inside the helmet, put your helmet on, and you could always put those sunglasses on after you hit the mounting line. Maybe have your shoes clipped in, use the rubber bands attached to your frame, your derailleur, run out with the bike. Something important that I'll say is to always mount your bike the same way. Have that one leg that always goes over with the power leg so that you're in the right frame of mind. It's like, it happens all the time. So have that, practice your transitions. That's something good that came out of that as well. Session 5 was nutrition. We talked about nutrition tonight for a little bit. We had Erica on, and then we had someone from Infinite and Hey Mama Kitchen. I think a key takeaway there would be to try and see what works for you in training so that it works for you in race day. Whether it be, your powders, your gels, your little whole foods on the bike, the little snacks. Another key takeaway was to do recon on the bicycle course so that where you can take on nutrition before a hill. If there's a long segment where it's kind of flat, rolling hills, you want to take on some nutrition before you start to climb and exert more energy. So I think that was super important. Session 6, we talked about bike fit maintenance with Merrick bicycles. Bike fit's super important. Danielle, you want to hit on some of the key things there?
Yeah, bike fit is important when you're putting in long distance miles. It's hard on your body. Cycling, you spend a lot of time doing it, and then you have to be ready to run. And when we had the bike fit specialist Chris on, he explained that triathletes and straight cyclists are a little bit different in their bike fit. Triathletes need to preserve some of their muscle power for the run. So bike fit for a triathlete is important because they do that for you. They fit you in a position that's comfortable for you to be in time trial, aero position for an extended period of time, but then also preserving some of that posterior, which is the back of the body, the back of your legs, that's your hamstrings and your glutes, so that they're strong for the run and you don't get that leg fatigue while you're running. So that's the importance there in really having a good fit. I mean, you can guess your bicycles, oh, I'm this tall and I could ride that, but to have somebody actually measure you and look at how you pedal and how your body is and what your flexibility is will determine how efficient you'll be on the bicycle.
Yeah, perfect advice. Bike fit's super important before you buy a bike and after you buy your bike, and even after you ride your bike a few times. Bike maintenance, maybe don't wait, a week or 2 days before your race to get your bike tuned up. If you bring it to the bike shop, bring it there over a week, ride it a few times, make sure that the bike shop did a good job, corrected any issues. So you're not going from the bike shop to the race course on race day without knowing how your bike is operating. So it's important to maintain your bike on a daily basis. I just cleaned my bike yesterday, so it's the drivetrain is nice and squeaky clean. Degrease it, throw a little lube on there. So that was a nice session. Also in that session, we went over special needs for the long distance. What to put in your bags, what's important, what's extra stuff to throw in there. We had some checklists. We can get that out to everybody. So that was an important conversation. So this past Monday, we talked about the mental aspect, mental preparedness. We had a mental health counselor on, and she discussed, some of the things that we just spoke to Mirinda about, the anxiety levels, all the emotions, the feelings with the long training sessions, over months, it could be years that people set up these goals for themselves. So how to handle all of those emotions. Danielle, you want to maybe discuss some of the key takeaways about mental preparedness, dealing with the emotions, the highs, the lows, with training and racing?
Sure. With training and racing, your mindset is everything. So if you're positive in it, you're going to have positive come out of it. It's hard to stay that way sometimes when you have a curveball thrown your way, whether it's having a race taken away from you due to COVID or an injury that sidelines you for a season. Something happens on the race course or on a training day where your nutrition just isn't right, or you don't feel well, or it's really hot and humid and you're getting sick, or whatever it is, will always make you feel bad about it. You're going to be upset, you're going to be disappointed, but like Renee said, you will race again and you will do it again. You have to use those as learning tools to make yourself better the next time. And I always urge people to stay positive and just, you're going to get out of it what you put in. And if you're telling yourself you can't, we don't use those words with my athletes, because there is no can't. You're going to try, you're going to do this. And, it's mind over matter most of the time. Like I said the other night, that your mind will, quit long before your body does. Your body goes into autopilot in this sport. Mm-hmm. Trained to do what it's doing, and if your mind says no, your body's going to say hell no right behind it. But if you keep saying yes, I'm going to do this, and you break it off into little segments, I think Liv discussed the same thing. Like people who don't think they can swim that far, we break it down by buoys.
Segregation, yep.
Yeah, you separate it. And the same thing for the bike. It's every, rest area, and the same thing for the run. It's every mile or mile and a half, whatever the aid station is, get to the next aid station. That's, you take your big goal is the race, and you break it down into smaller goals for the day. Mm-hmm. And that keeps you kind of propelling forward, one foot in front of the other.
No, that's all good stuff there. And I think another takeaway, what Mirinda also said, is just deal with the now. Be in the now, appreciate what's going on, enjoy what's going on, and deal with what's going on. You have to think a little bit further ahead about the next step, but maybe don't dwell there too much. I mean, the short distance happens pretty fast, but you're still thinking. The long distance, you're on your bike for a long time, and your brain is not stopping the whole time.
It's accepted as that.
The person in front of you, the person behind you, the wind, you're looking at your computer, your heart rate, your power numbers, your splits, when to eat. There's so much going on, and you're mentally exhausted, but you need to stay focused. So maybe there are some, exercises that you could do before the race to stay calm, or some breathing techniques you could do to stay calm. And then if things start maybe to get a little too excited for you, too anxious mid-race, maybe take on some of those, things that you practiced, at home.
And like she said, focus on something else. Focus on, my form, my posture. it's just, and then it takes your mind away from, you know, that anxiety, and it kind of just brings you to focus on something else. It's like redirecting.
Yeah, certainly redirect your energy and your mind. So great sessions that we have. We want to thank all of our guest speakers, all of our partners. Danielle, I want to thank you for being with us the whole time and co-moderating this with me. Again, to everyone out there watching, to those who have watched other sessions and came back to watch this one, thank you so much for being with us. For all the new viewers out there, thanks for joining us tonight. We had a special guest with Miranda Carfrae, great discussion with her. We're very grateful for the virtual training camp experience. There's a lot of good that has come out of this COVID situation that we all find ourselves in. Everyone has adapted lifestyle and training, and this is why we wanted to do this. We weren't at the time able to do a live, in-person camp. So we thought this would be nice to bring to the community. Maybe in the future we'll continue to do something like this, or definitely we will be bringing a live training camp, in person, as soon as it's safe to do so. If we have good interest, we'd like to do that. Typically, we do it up in Lake Placid, New York. So if anyone has been up there or done the race or is thinking about the race, that would be a location that we may do a camp in the future. We want to thank all of our partners for their support. Everyone, they offered representatives to discuss their product line and how they could be beneficial for all of us out there, for all of you out there. So we'd like to thank them. All of their contact information and all of their business information, email, website will be available to everyone out there. All of these sessions are videotaped, so they will be available on our YouTube channel once we upload them, which takes quite a little while. So I think with that, Danielle, do you want to say anything in closing, and then we'll get out of here?
I just, I thank you for inviting me to host this with you. It's been so much fun. I'm sad it's over. We're going to the next thing now. No, I think this was a great way to do it. And again, it's just a testimony to triathletes and accepting and adapting, because guess what? We couldn't have a live camp this year, so we're going to bring it to the internet. And, we got it done, and we had the same kind of representation that, we would have in a live presentation. And probably the participants too. I think it's a nice change of pace. It doesn't have to be a virtual race or an in-person meeting to gain some knowledge and tips for when we do hit the course again. So I thought it was a productive couple of weeks, and happy we did it.
Yeah, certainly. I am going to miss the Monday, Wednesday night sessions, but we'll see if we could, work something else out in the next couple of weeks. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Danielle. We're going to sign off now. Check us out, on Instagram, Facebook, Raw Endurance Tri Camp, and check out Danielle, the Rad fam. It's Danielle and Ray. Ray and Danielle. Fam is fitness and multi-sport. Check them out. Check us out. Be well, stay healthy, and keep training. Hopefully, we're going to get back to racing soon, and we will talk to you all soon. Thank you, and have a nice night.
Have a good night.